And what we also do is that we provide the access to the Valley ecosystem.
So you are an impact advisor.
How can failure rates go down?
You may have heard of some of our companies like Grey Orange Robotics.
Product management strategy.
Basically, how do you differentiate the core? One is be conscious who's your customer. The product would be the same.
I would like to now get started with the next panel. I would like to invite Mitesh Agrawal, and he handles global accounts, top 30 global accounts, and many lead accounts in India. And prior to that, he was a CTO of Oracle India. So very rare combination where you see a techie guy who is now handling a particular business unit within Oracle. And always my interactions with him has been very insightful and great insights on how enterprises can adopt technology, adopt cloud, and the latest trends in technology. And Mitesh is a pass out of BITS Pilani, 98 pass out. And he's an avid quizzer as well as a quiz master, takes a lot of quizzes in national level. So welcome, Mitesh. And I would like to request if you can invite other panelists. So please have a round of applause for
Thank you very much, Radesh. Thank you, Sanjay, for inviting. What I'll do is that I'll not give any gyan today, right? I'll be asking some questions to, I think, two of perhaps the real Gyanis, because they are the ones who you actually all want to sell to, right? So you perhaps have normally heard the term data is the new oil. Let me tell you that, the new phrase is attention is the new oil. You may have all the data. So if you can get the attention of these two gentlemen, I can tell you can sell a lot, right? And I think Covaxis would clearly, attest to that for sure. So let me first, invite, it's my privilege because these two people are stalwarts in the industry. So any amount of introduction that I give, I'm always going to fall short. So let me invite both of them great friends of mine as well. So the first one, someone who's done, I think, one of the most non-linear things that I've seen in a career. Started with Motorola for 10 years, who invented Six Sigma, then went on to be the chief quality officer of Wipro, then went into a totally different thing. He became the COO of Akshay Patra, right? And then moved to Mumbai, joined the Aditya Birla Group, right? And now, again, completely non-linear. He's the chief digital officer and also the entire IT function reports into him. Done amazing amount of transformation out there. You can see he works with large corporations like us, right? And also many of the startups, right? And you'll see the kind of insights that some of these folks can give you. And especially Jagdish, can I please get you up here on stage? Please give him a big round of applause. Welcome, Jagdish. And the next gentleman, while people will say there's no introduction required and so on and so forth, right? You will see not just insight, sharpness, but something what I enjoy the most, which is straight talk, right? Because people talk the talk, he walks the talk, okay? I don't know if there's any startup, Sanjay, maybe in your very long career that has grown for 25 years in a row at a minimum of 25 to 30% every quarter. So let me tell you someone who actually has been there for that long, right? With 32 years of experience, but almost 24, 25 years, helping a company grow 25 to 30% quarter on quarter. I'm just repeating that, okay? And they are a startup according to me because while they are the biggest in the country, right, they behave like a startup every single day. I know that because I perhaps have been associated with them for almost 20 out of those 25 years. I have the unique privilege of inviting Munish Mittal, the CIO of HDFC Bank. Munish, welcome. Please. So, first of all, Munish, Jagdish, thank you so much for making the time. Let me start off, straight away. We heard a bunch of, views and opinions from our previous panel about how tongue-in-cheek easy it is to sell to both of you, right? But I have, a slightly different viewpoint. I think that, it's about what is the value proposition that is brought back to all of you. And the fact that you as an organization, right, what are you looking for in them? So when I look at Aditya Birla Group, they are the third largest conglomerate in the country in almost every business, right? So Jagdish, from your viewpoint, right, what do you have as advice for all the startups here who want to come and sell to you, right? Or to anyone, but you are a practitioner, you're actually a buyer, you have the money, right? So what is your advice in terms of what you're looking for?
Okay, I'll give you my experience. So I'm not going to give you Gyan, and my partner has already spoken. So I work with the two extremes of one is Oracle, which is the entire ERP platform we are wedded to Oracle. And then we are working today with around 15 other companies, including Tarun, and Coax is one of our key partners. So two things for you. I think it really matters with whom you shake your first hand when you enter in. Who is your first contact in the company? In a big company matters a lot. And Tarun and me were lucky that we met the first time in ABG. He met me, and then we are still trying to take him inside. I would say he has been very nice in his speech, but it matters a lot on whom are you speaking to. And I'll give you characteristics of typically when you work with large companies. One, I think both Mahesh and Tarun said it very clearly, but let me articulate. All of people are saying, okay, there's a lot of startups, so what can I learn from them, which I can do myself? So that's the first thing that you'll see. You need very specific individuals who are, I would say, selfless in making you grow. You have to identify one or two who are really interested in working with you. And if you don't find them, just get out. So don't waste your time, okay? So my advice will be, yes, it's a long cycle to sell, but find that. Second is, go with an idea that is attractive to that company. Don't go with the generic idea saying that I can do an AI. So I meet at least 15 to 20 enterprises that comes and say, I can do ML and AI. So I ask them, what is your unique proposition to me? So how much do you know about, you don't need to know about aluminum, but do you really know I'm a manufacturing company? Do you know what are the broad use cases and what is your unique proposition that you come, because of which I should work with you? Okay, that's very important. And so don't go and pitch a generic pitch saying, I'm an AI, I'm a blockchain, I'm a bot. It means nothing to us. How are you relevant to me? And the third thing which I will tell you is, very important is, when you get into the startups, into a big organization like ours, I think you have to basically navigate your way through knowing multiple people, especially the people who are going to be the receivers of your output, right? So and I'll take Tarun's example, how we have walked the journey for the last 3 years, right? So first, we have to get contact with the factory that is going to use your product. So as a chief digital officer, I don't run factories, right? So through the entry, you figure out who is running that factory. What is his pain area? So when Tarun came in, the first thing I told him is, look, you need to solve one of the pain areas. Don't come and tell me, Gyan, about what is your IPF and product, that's fine. But show me your value proposition to me very quickly. And very quickly it could be 3 months, it could be 6 months, but that's the kind of people get a value. Otherwise, there's a lot of resistance on what these guys will do. And many of us have this feeling that I've tried this before. I've done it with somebody, it doesn't work. So you will find people who are going to be, so you have to be very important for you is figure out, are you talking to the right person? And what is his ability to take you to the person whose problem you are going to solve? A lot of times you'll end up working with somebody who's interested in a POC with you, who is interested in learning for self, but he has no ability to take you to the influencer in the business. So these influencers are the people who are really going to be the beneficiaries of your solution. Not me. I don't benefit from any of your solutions. But if I don't have the ability to take you to my beneficiary, you are going to go nowhere. So be clear whom you are approaching. Be clear whether that person's ability to take you to the stakeholders, and then start engaging with that particular stakeholder. After that, I am irrelevant. When Tarun made that model, after 4 months, when My plant told me, yaar, ye kaam kar raha hai. My job is done. I don't need to do anything. So my job is not to engage with him and make him do projects for me. My job is to take him to the right stakeholder and make him successful, through which I am successful. So I think it's very important for you to approach the right person and then quickly get connected to the person whose problem you're solving and get him to believe that you can do things for them. We are okay with failures. What we are not okay with is lack of effort or trying to sell your solution, trying to sell your product. That doesn't work. Directly jump into what is the customer's problem, and if it is not your cup of tea, say so and get out. I have seen a lot of startups who come in and say, tell me what you want me to do, I will do. I will never believe them. Because you have to be very strong on your proposition as to what you're coming in. Stay with it. If the company doesn't feel that you're relevant, get out of it. Don't waste time. Be strong on your idea. Get to the right person in the organization. Connect to the stakeholder as quickly as possible and create value to the stakeholder. And don't forget the guy who got you in. Don't let him down, ever. Okay?
Thank you. Thanks, Jagdish. Well said. So, Manish, if a startup had to grow like HDFC Bank, right, what would they have to come and tell you, apart from, I just noticed, I just happened to be standing there when Manish came, and there were like 7 people in the queue trying to exchange cards. And after a while, you could do Control-C, Control-V of what Manish was telling them, right? Is that, hey, don't just walk up to me, give me your card, and expect that I'm going to give you a meeting tomorrow. I get 1 million of these every day, right? So Manish, what do startups have to do to get your attention, get the bank's attention?
First of all, thank you very much for having me here. And I'm not sure if I've earned all the, reputation and credibility you talked about me. It's a pleasure talking to all of you. Very good evening. See, the startup need to have, so for example, if we are a startup and growing at X rate in 25 years, you need to have a visionary. So we were lucky to have our managing director as the visionary, Mr. Aditya Puri. So first of all, you being startups, do you have a vision of where you want to take your company? So our vision was to build world-class Indian bank. So we saw that Citibank and HSBC and Stanchart and Barclays and ABN AMRO and RBC cannot grow in India and cannot build a world-class Indian bank. So there was an empty space which we could occupy because we were in India. We didn't have the regulations which were applying to them, the world-class banks. So therefore, you have to identify a space. Second, more direct, some easier answer I'll try to give you, because our bank has built the entire enablement using technology through strictly startups. Every single API or application which runs for a business purpose to serve my customer is built using a startup company and a startup technology platform. Every single one of them. So when you approach a bank like ours, and I can talk only about banks, I'm a small frog in the well, so I don't know the worldly wisdom. So only about a banking sector, I can tell you that there are forums to enter. So there is a FinTech forum we have, there are Startup Innovation Forum, we run a Digital Innovation Summit. So there are those forums through which you can come. We filter 5 or 10 out of 25 or 30 who participate. Then we run some proof of concept with them. You need no introduction. You need to know nobody in our bank or any bank for that matter. As long as you keep your eyes and ears open to come and participate in that FinTech forum or Digital Innovation Summit. We run 1 or 2 every year, right? And we are doing it for the last 6, 7, 8 years. Second, you need to identify what is a non-taken space, what is vacant. So we worked with a company called Senovi startup. We didn't have any disaster recovery, workflow orchestration, automation solution. We worked with a company called CRM Next, which was a startup CRM built in India, though IP parked somewhere, then brought back into India. We didn't have an operational CRM. We worked with a company called Appnomics. I think Radhesh mentioned AppDynamics, who was acquired by Cisco. We worked with a company called Appnomics, which does something similar to what AppDynamics does. We didn't go with AppDynamics at that time, but we worked with the startup Appnomics because we could, that was a non-taken space. I didn't have a technology for technology in my shop. So it was a vacant space. So you have to identify what is a space not taken in an enterprise where there is no existing solution. Now the question is, how do you identify? How do you know that the space is not taken? For that also I have a suggestion, very simple suggestion for you. Find a person who knows, and that person is unlikely to be within the organization, right? If you're lucky, you know somebody in the organization and reach out to, then maybe you can find out. But in your own mentorship circles, in your own, so if you know somebody like Mitesh, right? Mitesh knows what is not there in my bank. If you know somebody like Bhaskar Subramanian, who founded Servion, who founded Unifor, again a name I found in the Arca Ventures chart. Seclor is another name I found. If you know somebody like these people who know the bank, who know the organization you want to enter into, they'll be able to tell you what is not taken in the bank, right? For example, there is a video KYC now possible in banking, right? SignZ, one of my partners I think is here, has probably a video KYC solution. We already work with them as a startup. But there are people who know that bank has not taken a video KYC solution from SignZ or from anybody else. They can bring you, if you have a solution, to us, because that person has a credibility with us already. He has been partnered to making us successful. So find a person who's made the bank or the organization you want to enter successful and get them to advise you. That is easy to find out. You can find them up at the Microsoft Venture, at Oracle Venture. Somebody mentioned IBM Smart Startup. So there are multiple such forums. You can find these people who can advise you how to get. Okay? I don't know, I can go on and on and on and on.
So Munish, I can tell you that there was this small startup that you bet on, I think 24 years or 24 and a half years ago. It was called Oracle, right? And I think they are a decently large, company now, thanks to your patronage.
3,800 something is their share price, right? They were known as Cittil at that time.
Yes, they were called Cittil, later became iFlex, and then Oracle Corporation acquired it, and they're called OFSS now. And I can tell you that, having gone through that journey for a number of years, especially from another stalwart from that industry, Manmat, who, you must meet. It's been a journey of 20 years where we used HDFC Bank's example of scale, and we actually have sold billions of dollars globally, right? Now we've heard the yin, let me go to the yang. Munish, maybe I'll start with you again this time, right? What's the strict no-no according to you? What would you absolutely say startups don't do this, please?
Few things, again, random. One, if you don't have a product, again, I think one of our colleagues in the previous panel and the speakers mentioned MVP, right? I think Radhesh mentioned that one of my criteria to invest in a startup is that you at least have an MVP. So you should have a working product. If you have an idea, vaporware, only PowerPoint, some thought process, maybe some skills, some scientists, engineers got together to build a product, don't come to at least our bank. So if you don't have a working product, don't come. Second is do not overestimate your capability. So our Coexis mentioned that we can solve an AI problem when they were doing one of the proof of concepts for, I think, Jagdish, not necessarily in Hindalco, maybe in his previous avatar. It is good to have conviction, and as long as you can put courage and dollars and runway behind that conviction and the right skills to build quickly in the time which the customer may be looking at. But essentially, don't overestimate your capability. There are few startups in the room here whom we work with. They still have to solve a scale problem. So you should know that I process 2 billion transactions a day. You should know that I process 80 million transactions one day. You should know that I issue more than 5 times the credit cards put together issued by all other credit card issuers in one day. So that's the scale we are dealing with. So if you're overestimating the capability of your technology, your product, it's not going to be a good idea because you're going to be found out in no time. Second, do not underestimate the complexity of the requirement of the customer. Many times you underestimate. You believe that we can solve it. You believe that your product will scale. Trust me, it will require re-engineering on the day one you enter an organization like me. I'll give you an example. We work with a startup called MindGate. When the UPI announced in the country, they came up, I have a UPI switch, right? Since we work strictly with startups, we said, very good. In any case, the established players did not have a UPI switch. So I work with a payments company called ACI, Applied Communication Incorporated. They have the most robust payment switch in the globe, in my opinion, works on a non-stop technology. I asked them, do you have a UPI API or UPI module or UPI functionality? They don't have, right, at that time. And India was not in the landscape of market. They're headquartered in Naples. They are a successful big company. So MindGate came. Day one, we said, okay, can you give us 30 TPS? This is when we thought IMPS has taken 2 years in the country to scale to something like 5 million transactions a day, right? NEFT has taken something like 10 years to go to 2 million transactions in a day in my bank. UPI will take 10 years. That's what we thought, okay? But UPI is scaling to 1.3 billion transactions in industry in a month of January 2020, of which more than 250 million transactions I do in a day at a rate of 9,000 TPS at a message level. This product was 2 TPS on the day we acquired. Required re-engineering day one. We re-engineered it with MindGate to 600 TPS, from 32 TPS to 30 TPS to 100 TPS to 600 TPS, and now we're working with Mitesh, with Oracle, with ACI, with MindGate to get it to something like maybe 5,000 TPS at a business service level and maybe 50,000 TPS at a message level. So do not underestimate the complexity. You should have the capability to, and if I was to summarize this, if you're going to build castles in the air for yourself and for your client, then have the capability to put foundations under it very quickly.
Thank you, Munish. So, Jagdish, I think you started also by saying what not to do, right? But if you were evaluating, startups, right? Apart from the fact that, let's say they got the tech, right? They've got addressing a business problem. What else would you look for in a startup?
Yeah, I think Munish said a lot of things in terms of, let me add to what are the few things that can put you at risk in terms of going ahead. One is, don't ever underestimate the intellectual capability of the people whom you are dealing with. Whether they have it or not, that's different. But listen to them a lot and behave as if, yes, they know everything. That's very important for you. Maybe you have a better solution, but it will take time for them to realize that, there is somebody who has got a better solution than me. That is one. So never ever say, look, you don't know, but I know what I'm talking. Maybe you're right, but that's one which is very important for you. The second, I think Munish has said it very rightly, and I will again, don't underestimate the complexity of the problem. And if you don't have right people, don't get into it. Because we have seen that maybe in his own organization, I keep on asking Tarun, how many people do you have? If I'm going to scale up with you, where are those 50 people? You're not going to scale up for me, right? So how many more Taruns you have? You can't have, the entrepreneur is only one. You are the entrepreneurs, right? So how are you going to build a team? If you want to scale up, you need to have the thought process on how are you going to build your team, the minimum team that is going to make that minimum viable product to the next level as applicable to the customer. So that's our biggest concern. What is the safest bet for me is to sign with an Oracle and sleep well in the night. It doesn't matter how, if something goes bad, I can always say, look, I signed with the best company. So when I sign with Coaxes versus an Oracle IoT, for me, Oracle IoT is very safe because it's Oracle. But if I have to sign with him, I need him to travel with me, right? So it's very important that you basically give them the confidence that, look, I have the people and they deliver. So first few deliveries, don't ever underestimate and overpromise. Be very careful. Once you do the first win and the second win, your path is open. You know, it just takes that 2 barriers to let some people know that I'm not as bad as what you thought when I came in. It takes time. But to travel the journey, I think you have to put your best capability forward. After that, if you have a problem in the third project, fourth project, we are tolerant. But not the first and the second. First and the second, if you do a mistake, I think you're written off. And maybe it takes your competitors to get you back. If he does a worse job, then we get you back. But that's my few lessons. And the other one, last, I would like to leave with you is that when you're scaling up, don't be over ambitious, because I think getting the right people and talent is extremely difficult. So just measure, are you really going to deliver? Okay, sometimes you may just have the urge saying, why not just take another 5 projects, 10 projects? Don't do that. You don't need to hurry at all. Once your capability is known to the organization, we are patient enough to wait for you to grow, and we'll grow you. But it takes time. It has taken 3 years. Now we are getting to a point where there's a trust that is established. We have use cases very clearly. And it takes time for even a startup to understand our processes, our business. So give that much time for the relationship to mature.
Thanks. Oh, absolutely, Manish.
See, if I don't share with you at this forum and you want to give me a card and meet me later, that's not going to happen. So therefore, I'm taking liberty to share a couple of things while we have the mutual attention. There are 2-3 more things I can share with you of don't do, even after you have successfully engaged. So this time I'm not going to name companies because it's not fair. So we worked with very large digital omni-channel platform company, small omni-channel platform company, who could help me create a new customer experience on net and mobile and so on. So they told us, day one, that, listen, I'm going to sell you the product and the platform, but how to implement, that's your problem. Like a fool, we still chose and worked because we loved the platform. We loved the product they had. We loved the technology they had. We were oversold, they didn't have to do a selling job. We bought at mutually agreeable terms. But if you continue to say, listen, this is not my problem, what you are unlikely to get from the customer, especially if it is not successful in the time domain, it is relevant to the customer to go to market, you're not going to ever get a reference from the customer. So don't be stubborn and continue to stick to your ideology that I don't do this, and therefore it is your problem. So that's one input I can share with you. Second one is also in the same area of don't stick to your ideology. Another company, small startup company based in Silicon Valley we worked with, who provides us a machine learning, artificial intelligence based first moment of truth in our engagement platform. I hope you understand, 0 moment of truth is for the running service. The program has to be running, right? And the first moment of truth is when you say, wow, this app knows really what I want. So we worked with that company. They brought the platform down because they were never geared up to have that kind of a service level of availability. They didn't have the governance process of change management. They didn't have segregation of duty between the people who write the code, who do the version check-in, check-out, and who promote the change or release into production. Very small startup, nimble company, running somewhere in the cloud in US, in California. So I went to them, I shut them down. I said, nothing doing. you will not participate in my engagement platform. You brought me down, period. This is the end of road for you. Okay? 3 months I kept them switched off. They continue to stick to their guns that I will not come to on-premise for you. I said, you have to come to on-premise. You have to be an API running on my data center so that I have control on change management, on governance. I have the key to the, to the access control, privilege ID, and so on and so forth. So, no, we have decided at the board level that no, we will not come to on-premise for you. Our only model is cloud model of providing this service. Very good. So they remained shut. We didn't give them a reference. I opened them up again 4th month because I came under pressure internally. So this happens in an organization, right? I came under pressure. No, we need this. This is the enablement. This is the revenue loss. I said, fine, no problem. We restarted them. Today, they are identified by a third party, and a regulator also knows that the biggest risk to my platform running. Now, if they continue to say that I cannot come on-premise for you, right, they obviously have a clear risk of, again, getting shut down. So don't be stubborn and stick to your ideology. Look at, or provide a graceful exit. Provide an alternative. So these are some of the things I think you should be very, very flexible on. And what customers like us, all of you, Arca Ventures said, you have to have a clear US-focused revenue model. You should be India technology built, India startup, but we will invest in you as Arca Ventures if you have a US revenue model of selling. Two diverse cultures, right? For you, it is very important to have an India customer as your anchor customer because they will give you robustness, resilience in your product. Then go and sell to that culture. So for India, be flexible. For US, charge 4 times.
Thank you, Manish. What I'll do is, before I round off with my final question, maybe it's only fair that, we open the stage up for, questions from the audience. So if any of you have questions, either for Manish, Jagdish, or both, right, feel free to, identify yourself maybe, and then ask the question. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Eri. I'm from the Japanese government office. We also do some kind of the cross-border acceleration for both Japanese and Indian startup look for the overseas market. My question is that when we look at the exit model of the majority of Indian startup, I suppose that the merger and acquisition is quite common compared to other countries. If we look for the more IPOs to grow larger and also sophisticate their services. In terms of the B2B technology, I think the sophistication is a key, especially the fintech like such. There are many aggregation startups who doing the who try to aggregate the different type of technology instead of sophisticating the technology itself. So from your perspective, what do you think, what kind of model or strategy which is needed, what is needed for Indian startup to sophisticate the services to go to approach and also to serve better to the corporates like yours?
Okay, so was that a question specifically for Jagdish or Manish, or you just want views from both? Okay, please. So if I can just summarize your question, it was with the perspective of you see a lot of M&A happening here, right? And that's a good example because if you see, at least Hindalco, they've acquired actually an American company called Novelis, right? They've also gone ahead and, made an intent to acquire another company called Aleris, and therefore they are the world's biggest aluminum, company now, right? So your question really is, how do you therefore now as a startup solicit this kind of, engagement? How do you engage with companies like this?
Also, sophistication of their services. They get acquired before in some way, they get acquired even before the technologies actually get matured. They get sold, they just
the startup gets sold.
As a startup.
Okay, the other way around. Okay, sorry, my bad, I misunderstood it.
If they look for the IPO first, I think the strategy they will take a little bit different. So in some sense, if I'm not saying wrong, that in some sense it looks like some startup might be looking for some fast cash.
Yeah, so, okay, basically your question is that instead of scaling the company, right, you're looking for how quickly you get the valuation up, sell it off, and go. And therefore, what happens to enterprises then? Is that a risk in your mind? Jagdish, your views?
I'll take that. I think it's because currently that's the biggest thing that is going on in our company, and I'll answer you. And that's a very genuine concern, because the one thing that I was wanting to tell you, now I'm telling you, is that when you come as a startup, we look at you as an entrepreneur who is coming with an idea which is very attractive to us, and we'd like to grow with you, because you are the face of the company to us, right? Now, your intention is, your intention could be, somehow make the idea attractive to 2-3 corporates and then get sold, versus, no, I need to grow my business where I become a sustainable business model. So this is a challenge for us. So when we do work with a startup, one thing is we are looking at what's your 3-year plan or 4-year plan. So in ABG, Aditya Birla Group, we have started a program exactly for this, which is Aditya Birla Accredited Acceleration Program. For startups saying that, look, you don't need to worry about growing with others. We will give you the growth. If you're good, you will grow with us. So that's kind of what we are saying, because this is a real problem, right? So we have a program which says, if you're a good startup and you have had minimal success within the ABG group, we will give you the growth. You can grow with us. So you don't need to think about getting sold to anybody. If you're getting sold and your intention is to get sold, that's fine. As long as we have the confidence in the partner who's acquiring you, and their business model is to continue your deliveries to us, rather than some of the acquisitions happen to just kill an idea. And so you have to be very careful in terms of why, as an entrepreneur, I think you're getting your money. So you don't care whether your idea gets killed or somebody is going to take forward. So we look at who is going to acquire you, and is the intention to continue with the service, or is the intention to kill you and come with a competitive product. So we decide that, but right now, in order to avoid that, what we have done is, if you're good, we will grow you. So don't worry. That's our model that we have now taken. And many of you, if you would like to grow with us and you think you have a viable product, you can always join this movement.
Thank you, Jagdish. Munish, views from you?
I really appreciate the question. As Jagdish said, absolutely relevant and fundamental question. And he's covered almost 99%, so I'll try 1% add to that. We knew when we were investing in Senavi that they will get sold. IBM acquired them. We also knew that when we were investing in CRM Next, or SCDS as the company is known, that they will eventually get sold, but not easily. They have a vision to grow to a level that they will give competition to almost all operational CRM players. We worked with another company called Augment IQ. Day one, we knew that this company will not last. We built a small API, L&T Infotech acquired them, and so on and so forth. So what is that we look at when we are partnering with a startup? Essentially, we make this determination by engaging with the face of the company, that what is your vision? Where do you want to go with this? Most businesses in startup world today are being built for valuation, quick cash out, and then thank you very much, right? So if we sense that, we will still partner with you as long as we can do 3 things. One, we can monetize our investment. We can juice out our investment before you get sold, and essentially keep you so busy, so occupied, so engaged that you don't think of selling, right? For that period, we'll provide you runway also for that. Many companies, Lentra.ai, we're providing runway. We have invested in that company, right? Clayfin, which was Vaina earlier, before that SolutionNet, we provided that runway. The company is still running. 1999 December, I had signed up with them with a check of 1 crore rupees or something, right? So we'll provide you that runway. We will not let you get sold very easily. We will make sure we make it interesting for you. And if during that period, your vision improves, right? You can really grow into very big companies. All the companies we worked with, we gave you just one example. All of them have grown into huge valuations. None of them has really folded up or got sold. Second thing which if we sense that you are going to sell the business, essentially is we will create such a strong contract with you that no matter who acquires you, and no matter who may want to charge 10x or 20x or 100x on the next annuity or the next renewal, right? We are safeguarded for at least what is called lifetime. So lifetime used to be 50 years at some point in time, 25 years at some point in time, maybe 10 years, couple of years back, maybe 7 years now. That if we can juice out the technology for 7 years and got return on our investment enough, that will sign such a strong contract with you. Third, we will influence you to sell it to company which is relevant to us. And we will work with you to get you to connect it to their chief strategy officer, to their merchant and acquisition head globally, right? I have given references, I've connected the people, including venture capitalists who may want to invest in the company, saying, okay, look at them, this is the value they bring. They may or may not acquire them, but we'll give them enough options on the table besides their own effort to sell. So these are some of the things a genuine partner of yours, a genuine anchor customer of yours will do with you.
Thank you, Manish. Great points there. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Anwar and I come from Cisco, but my question really is to Manish, essentially around the fact that you mentioned in different forums. So you mentioned in different forums that data is the new oil, and I've heard you say this way back in the year 2000. The question really is, how did you deal with that challenge, essentially in saying that, if data as a business requirement was as important in the year 2000 and looking at it from doing some analytics on top of it, what are the challenges that you really faced and what is it that you did to be able to come back in really creating some value out of it?
I'm not sure if that's a question related to this forum. By the way, I didn't say that. Satya Nadella said that, and I borrowed it, and it was much later. But of course, we as a bank invested in data in 2000. We were hardly a 4-year-old bank. We just laid the foundation of a retail bank, and we put a data warehouse on the ground, right? So the moment we realized that we have some data, we started warehousing it. We knew that it's going to be of use to us some point in time. And if you're familiar with a 10-second loan product of HDFC Bank, which I consider as the first true digital product born and offered by a banking and financial institution globally, literally in 4 clicks, and many people haven't been able to replicate today, is essentially about data being the real oil or the electricity. So 10-second loan product is monetizing data. So I'm not sure if I understood your question, but we worked with multiple startups to relate it to this forum, to convert data into oil and data into electricity. So we worked with a company called it's a Hyderabad-based company. Whom do we partner with? Who does the dedupe? I'm forgetting the name, becoming forgetful. So that company helps us create scrubbed databases with eligibility as a insight. And we pipe it up to an offer database, working with that startup, and which has an offer API which gets called in all our systems of engagement the moment we identify you. So it goes in 200 milliseconds, call that API, which in 200 milliseconds fetch that scrubbed database in which eligibility is sitting and pops up an offer for you as a banner in our engagement platform, whether that's net banking or mobile banking. So we really worked with a startup who was working on entity analytics, right? So the solution they had given to us and we had taken up with them was that can you uniquely identify, I think some company here said that we can uniquely identify a customer through machine learning, right? So that is what the solution they were bringing. But we use that capability for converting data into oil and create a scrubbed database. So co-innovation, right? So if that was your question, then that's my answer, that how do we go about the challenge?
So largely the challenge that you faced and how did you overcome it? As a matter of fact, you answered it in saying that, there is an element of possibly the startup element that was used and the challenges that you faced at that point in time. So thank you for that, sir.
Thank you. Maybe final one or two questions before we wrap up. Yep. Any other questions from the audience? Perhaps I can wrap up with a question, right? So both of you, if Jagdish, Munish, your organizations had a solution that could come from a large established, technology provider that solves your business problem, and you get the same thing from a startup, right? What really, how would you make that choice? I'm not saying you would make a choice of startup or enterprise, but pretty much a lot of what we hear today, large enterprises, are either acquiring that technology or they have enough, I think, deep pockets to invest, and build it. So, which one would you tend to go for as an enterprise, right? Because we heard, I think, from the previous panel as well as some of you alluded to it, that you could have bought technology from a large enterprise player and an alternative. So what kind of goes through in your mind when you do this selection process?
So I think in our case, it's basically how do you differentiate the core and the value add from a business perspective, right? So if I look at, let's take an example. What is important to run my business as usual without, at the end of the month, the invoice has to go and I have to get my money, right? So that we will never risk. But any frill that is coming to improve efficiency, which is not a do or die situation, but it gives you an advantage, we will definitely go for a startup. So the second thing that is very important is, the leadership. Because whether you work with a startup or you work with the big companies is completely dependent on the leadership of that company. So I have seen cases where the leader changes and the whole strategy changes, right? So does the leadership of the organization have, what is the strategy in terms of the balance between who is my core and who is in my core of my business, whom I need to bet with somebody who is proven, who has proven time and again, and who has got a scale to support me, and who are my partners who are going to give me the value add. So we look at startups clearly as the value adders. And you guys can add value which is enormous compared to my, let's say, the business as usual. So unless you grow to a level where you start becoming the base. But I think that's the strategy. You may not necessarily find that in all the big enterprises because it purely develops from the perspective of the managing director, what his direction is. Because don't forget, all of us, even though we are very senior in the organization, ultimately we are driven by the strategy of the organization, right? So that's very important for us. But given currently in ABG, I think this is exactly what we are doing is core, don't disturb until you have a thing. All value add, people who can bring in value and take you more near to the consumer, customer experience, efficiency, take the startups and go. That's how we work.
Thanks, Jagdish. Munish.
So I'm going to give you some ideas of new startup business. The assumption in your question is that everything else is equal. The reliability, availability, scalability.
Yeah, the technology.
Capability, the technology, the feature functionality is value.
That's correct.
Is equal between startup and with the large, rock solid enterprise technology provider. Given that is equal, we will make decision on two factors. One, who needs me more? Does the startup need me more? Or does the large corporate like Oracle, IBM, Microsoft needs me more? So I will tend to go with the person and the company which needs me more. And the reason is in the second factor. You would have heard Gartner, you would have heard Forrester, Celent, multiple other analysts. that shift from a project management waterfall to a product management agile, nimble, sprints approach. I have to be a differentiating, I need to have a differentiating ability in the market. I need to code the skill of selling and servicing in the software. I need to code my process in the software so that it is not dependent on the people. Because I'm running 30%, 20%, 10% attrition every time, no matter what you do, depending on the business cycle, right? So the knowledge is to be coded in the software. It has to be automated, robotic, right? It should have the brain. So I need to run a product management approach to keep differentiating, keep building my process, my skill, my knowledge into the software. The company who will be able to do a product management approach with me is likely to be a startup. It is very unlikely to be a mature large company because they will run a global product roadmap strategy. They will not run a HDFC Bank product roadmap strategy. So if you have an anchor customer you're looking at as HDFC Bank or equivalent enterprise and can engage in a product management strategy and build your product, I'm not saying that you don't do, you do customizations. That 98% you mentioned is a configurable product across the industries. Wonderful. If you have that kind of an IPR, whether it is over last 4 years or last 8 years, fantastic. I will still work with the startup because you will continue to be nimble. You will be able to engage with me on a product management strategy in a joint development, joint go-to-market. So I think I will end up choosing a startup if everything else is alike.
Thank you, Munish. So I think hopefully, a lot of this was super useful. I think getting some nuggets from Munish and Jagdish have been great. I think there's one more hand up there. Do we have time for one more question? Maybe, yep, sure, go ahead.
Whether it's abroad or in India. Typically in India, the pattern is like this, that those who are not from unorganized sector, you make it organized. And the second track is just, in developed countries, whatever has happened, just mimic it in India. Now, if you see the failure rate is almost 90% or 94% to be precise, across all the accelerators if you take. Now, the mimicking is not working the way it is, I mean, all the G7 countries if you take, and if you try to mimic it in India, then it is not working. Now, what is that key key elements which you feel that the success rate we can enhance so that it will be not that much demoralizing for this young generation, those who are spending at most 3 to 5 years in the startup, and once if it is failing, then they really get disappointed, and then it's a loss of very creative years of the time.
Interesting. Anyone wants to take a stab? What would be a good idea in terms of, how can failure rates go down?
Yeah.
Or rather, how can success rates go up? Would that be better?
Correct.
Yeah.
So I'll try and share with you. It's not an easy answer. There is no silver bullet. But I can give you this example of this company, SEDS, CRM Next. You should study them. They started with something called CRM Next. Because CRM was there, so they named the product CRM Next because they put a vision in their mind next in their operational CRM product. अभी वो हो गया, उसके बाद वो 50 जगह copy हो गया, right? So then they said, okay, we'll do something called Business Next. As the next level of innovation they built in the product. Business Next भी हो गया, 50 जगह implement कर दिया, वो भी copy हो गया. Now they're have come up with something called Branch Next. Right? So the ability to constantly innovate and add the next wave of enablement. So what is the Branch Next in their product? Branch Next is really challenging me not using my core banking in my branch, but using CRM Next in my branch as a single desktop. Because I have all the APIs now. So the teller needs to do a debit credit and API does it. I don't need the front end of core banking. So I have OFSS Oracle competing saying, you must upgrade the FlexCube core banking version to be able to sustain the branch module of the core banking, vis-a-vis CRM Next saying, take branch next and innovate the way you engage with the customer in the branch lobby, whether it is for opening an account or modifying a account master or a cross-sell or a teller transaction, right? So you should be able to constantly innovate and put something new. You must have a product roadmap. You must have a vision where you want to take your IPR. So I think that will reduce your failure rate. Once you have that, trust me, funding will follow. Less questions asked by Arca Ventures will also happen. They won't give you too much of, PBT target because they know, right? There are people like NVP who will not ask you a question for 10 years. As long as you have this vision and roadmap and you have, a value addition going in your product IPR.
Jagdish, would you have any additional comments?
Let me very quickly add the customer part of, since you spoke about, I guess your question was, when you go to multiple countries and what are the challenges, see, one thing is, I think as much as your product is good, you have to be closer to the customer in that particular, what works in India may not work anywhere else. So I think one is be conscious who's your customer. The product could be the same. You could be the same product, but your understanding of the customer's ecosystem is extremely important for you to succeed, and rest Manish has told. But it's extremely important that you understand the ecosystem where you are working, number one. Number two, be ready to customize your product. Just because it's been a great success in A country, don't take it for granted it will be in a B country. And we have seen this thing with us, where, like Mitesh was saying, we have overseas acquisitions, same product, whatever we make in India, they make the same, but we have had 2 startups who worked well with them, but we just couldn't work with them. Exactly because the cultural mismatch in terms of, it's easy to work, I'm telling you, it's much easier for you to work in a US and get satisfied, but I can guarantee to you, if you want a stable product and a robust product, work with Indian customers.
Great, thanks. I think this has been really, really insightful. So I want to, thank both Munish and Jagdish for really sharing their insights. They're hopefully available for a few more minutes, to just network. I know they have a busy schedule, right? So the only thing I would request is that, maybe you can send them LinkedIn requests, right? But expecting them to give you an appointment, right? I think as they gave you some insights, talk to the right people to get to them first. And if you can sell to them and if you can have them as references, right, I think the success rate goes up. That's the mantra. Okay, thank you very much. Thanks, Munish. Thanks, Jagdish.